Remember this? The DecaGear? One of the VR headsets coming out this year that got everyone excited as they promise an affordable headset built for social VR with impressive specs. Emphasis on promise as we still haven't seen proof of work, but if they deliver it will be amazing as it will probably be the first competitor to the Oculus Quest. Today we get a look at one of the first pieces of hardware that will be included with the DecaGear headset. This is the DecaMove, a hip tracker for a new way of walking inside a VR game that has never been done before. Not only is that already very interesting, it's also interesting to see if this works as intended, because if it does, I'm hopeful that the DecaGear will deliver too. Hey everyone, Cass here, and this is my DecaMove review. In this video I'll show you what's in the box, the setup and gameplay impressions, and then stick around until the end to find out exactly what I think about it and my recommendations. Thanks to Megadodo for sending over a free unit for me to review. But if you like to be kept up to date about VR, you should subscribe if you haven't yet. And now join me beyond reality. Okay, let me quickly explain what this thing actually does and why it's so special. You place the DecaMove on your hip, so on your jeans or belt with the clip at the back. It will then start tracking your hip movement in game. So when you walk forward, it will go in the direction your hip is facing. The DecaMove sensor relies heavily on a magnetometer. Your hip data is sent to a provided USB dongle, which I will show later. Then it promises to deliver low latency, precise and accurate hip tracking without the need for any external trackers like the Steam VR base stations. Yes, this means it works with almost any VR headset, including the Oculus Quest. Very nice. Currently it does only work with Steam VR games, so for Oculus Quest you do need a PC and you need to use Link or Virtual Desktop. But as said before, the DecaMove should come included with the DecaGear headset, but you can also buy it separately for $69 US. Okay, we know what it is now, but what makes it so special? Give me 60 seconds to clue you in and talk about Locomotion. If you want to skip to the review, that's possible. Check out the timestamps below, but it helps a ton for the YouTube algorithm if you watch the entire video. As you may know, there are currently two popular options for walking in VR. You can teleport around, comfortable but not very immersive, or you can use smooth locomotion, which usually uses the joystick to allow you to slide through the game. Now, if you use smooth locomotion, there are usually two more options for you. You can set it to use the direction of your head or your hands. If you set it on your head direction, what happens is if you point your joystick forward, you move forward in the direction of where you are looking. If you set it to move with your hands, you need to point your hands in the direction you want to move. Both have one major disadvantage: your head or hands aren't free. The DecaMove solves that. It still does not take over your trackpad or joystick. You still need to use that, but now it uses your hip as direction. So your head and hands are freed up to do other things. Plus, it should feel way more natural because you always use your hip to move already. I am actually one of those who cannot handle hand-oriented movement as it makes me motion sick, so I'm probably one of the best persons to test this out, as I can test if this solves motion sickness as well. I hope so. So this was delivered to me, a small pouch containing the DecaMove device. You also get a USB-C cable, a USB dongle, an antenna for the dongle, and manual with a link to the setup guide. The DecaMove is a tiny little thing. At the front there's a button. At the side a USB-C slot for charging, some holes for ventilation I'm guessing, and at the back there's the clip to mount it on your hip. It looks 3D printed and it came a little damaged, but keep in mind that they sent me an early version and they mentioned that this is not how the consumer product will look like, so if it wasn't damaged, I think it looks pretty nice and it feels pretty sturdy. But if you shake it, you can hear the sensors pretty loudly. So I'm not sure how sturdy it is exactly. I'm guessing you should probably take good care of not dropping it. Now, before we move on to the review, let me show you what the software setup is like. First, you need to screw in the antenna to the USB dongle and connect the dongle to your PC. then download and start the DecaHub software from their site. Here, over at the Devices tab, you can see the DecaMove change to streaming once you turn it on. Now, since the device sensor relies on a magnetometer, you need to calibrate it before first use, which can be done easily via the software. It will show you exactly what you have to do. Once done, you're ready to place it on your hip and start playing. They recommend putting it on your right side. Now, to make it work with most Steam VR games, you do need to launch the game via the DecaHub software. Your Steam VR installed games should show up here, and the ones that have a green checkmark have support. Other games could also work, but just aren't verified yet by Mechadodo. When you click on a game, it will automatically launch Steam VR, and fun fact, the DecaMove will even show up in the Steam VR window. Inside the game, there are 2 small last steps to do. Every game session you need to calibrate in-game. This is done by holding your controllers close together in front of your hips, making sure your controllers point in the same direction as your head. Then just look forward and don't move for 1 second. You should see the message calibrating show up, and if you hold that position until it's complete, you should be done. It's really easy to do. You can do this calibration step anytime you feel like the DecaMove has drifted. Last thing to do is to make sure your game settings are correct. The game should be set to smooth locomotion. Sometimes this is called something else like continuous. Then also make sure to select head-oriented locomotion and set the dominant hand to right-handed. This may seem like a lot of things to do, but you can actually get used to it pretty quickly. Now with the game launched, you will see the DecaMove circle on your floor in the game. It shows how much battery the DecaMove has left, and an arrow indicates your hip's direction. If this circle shows up, you know it works. But you can also turn it on and off by clicking on the DecaMove button that is on your hip. That's the setup. I'm actually pretty impressed about her user interface. It looks like they've given some thought about making this as easy as possible, which is something not even all big companies do right. So some points for me here already. Now, I've spent several hours in a variety of games to test this out. I've played Population 1, a fast-paced competitive shooter. I've played Half-Life Alyx, a more normal-based shooter. And then I also dove into VRChat, an exploration social game. I've used the Oculus Quest 2 with the official link cable for this, and also wirelessly with Virtual Desktop. Happy to say both methods work perfectly. It's especially awesome with VD. My hands aren't here, right? But I can move my hip that direction. Bye!
Okay. That looks good.
Do you know what I mean? It's really hard though to do it that way. So, in game, this is how it works. When I move my stick forward now, the direction it moves to is my hips direction. So let's say I move my hips like this to the right while keeping my head and hands to the front. Now, if I push my joystick forward, I will move to the right, as that's where my hip is facing. This is how it works, simply explained. And this is what I think about the DecaMove. I like it. It takes some time getting used to, like I still catch myself trying to do head-oriented locomotion, so you kinda need to relearn how to use it. But it is not hard getting used to it. I do think that is because I rarely use snap or smooth turning. Instead, I use my real-life body to turn around, as I think that's the most immersive and less motion sick inducing. If you play like me, I guess you won't have much trouble getting used to it either. But if you use artificial turning a lot, you will need to build up some muscle memory. The first few times I've played with it, I did get motion sick. It took some time to get used to that, but it seems much better than hand-oriented movement for me. In my later sessions, I was totally fine. Also, motion sickness is a very personal thing, so I'm mentioning it, but don't give it too much weight. The good things are that I did not notice any latency and the tracking does feel precise. There is some drifting after a while, but it isn't very noticeable during gaming, so it's not bad at all. Sometimes when I look down, I can see the arrow has moved slightly, but the calibration that I showed you during this video setup section is straightforward to use, and it's great because it works anywhere and anytime, and it's pretty reliable. I do catch myself doing it pretty often, just in case, usually when I'm in a loading screen or something. Thankfully, it takes like 2 seconds. I've also tried spinning around, jumping, moving and dancing like a little monkey, and it tracked fine. Battery life seems fine as well. I could play for 4-hour plus sessions and I still had enough battery. I actually forgot to stop charging it overnight, so I can't tell you the whole battery life right now, but I'll put it in the description later once I know. The DecaMove does indeed feel very natural. Being free from being headlocked in direction feels really good. This is an advantage that I find improves my overall gaming experiences. So I will keep using it. I do think $70 is a lot of money just for a hip tracker. It's probably more worth it in combination with the DecaGear headset. Plus, there are other things to take into account before you buy, like with new VR hardware, one of the common problems is software support. In this case, I do think Megadodo did a good job. Most Steam VR games are supported without the need of the game developer as long as you launch the game from the Deca hub. However, it could still happen that one of your favorite games does not work with it immediately, so then you have to wait until it gets support. By the way, you can check the Deca.net website to see which games are verified. Then, a new product never released before usually has some kind of problem since it hasn't gone through as much R&D. So one thing to keep in mind, for example, is that you need to set the game to right-handed for now, so what about left-handed people? But I guess this is part of the risk of being an early adapter. However, now that I know that the DecaMove works as promised, and now that I've seen their user interface design that's surprisingly easy to use, it seems to me that the Megadodo knows what they are doing. These people seem like VR players themselves. They know the challenges and they just want to solve them. So I definitely have more faith in them now, and this has also gotten me more excited for the DecaGear. I guess we should have known all along, hips really don't lie. So would you get the DecaMove? Why yes or why not? Let me know in the comments below as well. If you have any other questions about it, drop it down below there and I'll try to answer as much as I can. Thanks for watching. Still, stay tuned for the 100k giveaway and celebration. The announcement is coming very soon, but we still are figuring out some details, but it's gonna be big and it's gonna be fun. A special thanks go to all our champions, especially these paid ones down below, and as always, VR on!